Hey, I'm Randy, and I'm the Cheap Audio Man. Here at the Cheap Audio Man, we don't feel like audio equipment, speakers, amps, DACs, turntables, 8-track players, cassette players, all the associated cabling should cost more than buying a giraffe and getting all the permits and putting it in your backyard, because what's cooler than having a giraffe in your backyard? And these don't. Today we're talking about why DIY. DIY speakers or DIY amps or anything. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about why you should DIY. Today's sponsor is Jennifer's Wooden Devil Skulls. It's the perfect gift for any occasion: graduation, wedding, bar mitzvah, first communion. Nothing says I love you like a handmade wooden devil skull. All right. So, why DIY? I have always been fascinated with DIY speakers. I've always thought it was really cool, and part of it's because I fancy myself a handy guy. I've been able to do a few things. Not well, but sometimes they're okay. All right. But all the DIY speakers I've ever done have always worked out. My first DIY speaker was, I think it was called the Classics 2, and I have them out in the garage. And it was just fun. It was a fun learning experience for me, how to assemble crossovers, how to glue up enclosures and things like that. And it led me kind of down the path of trying to make my own speakers, from driver selection to crossover creation and things like that. I always thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I started the channel, I've been able to kind of dip my toe back into the DIY speaker pool, if you will. And I've done a kit by GR Research and also CSS Audio, Creative Sound Solutions. And the light bulb has never gone off for me, but it has really gone on for me as far as what you're getting for your money. Now, obviously, there's some caveats to what you're getting with your money, but the quality of sound is, quite frankly, unrivaled at the price point of the kit, and I would argue even greater than the kit. Okay, so let's talk about where the value is. Let's talk about the Enclosure. At this point, I've listened to and dealt with over 50 pairs of speakers. Actually, it might even be more, like 60. But I have picked them up, listened to them, turned them on, played around with them, and I've got a fairly decent feel of what a $500, $600 production speaker feels like and how it's built. And some speakers are fairly well built. They're fairly inert. They have very well braced cabinets. They have nice finishes. So some are great. Others are not. And it's not necessarily how they look. Most production speakers look pretty good, even if it's a vinyl wrap or whatever. But it's the foundation that there are, I wouldn't say corners cut. Absolutely not. I'll put it to you this way. The DIY kits that I have dealt with have better enclosures. And when I say better, I mean thicker wood, better bracing, more inert cabinets. And the more inert your cabinet is, the fewer resonant frequencies that cabinet is going to give off. And that all translates to better sound. These both have very well built cabinets. Now, you can build the cabinets yourself. All of the kits will give you plans. So if you've got a table saw or circular saw, and you're very good at woodworking, cutting consistent lengths, things like that, that may be the route to go. But there's also flat packs available, and those flat packs for these two companies are both CNC'd. So it, again, takes one of the difficult parts of building a speaker out of the equation. These speakers Both sound like I'm knocking on a cinder block. And I know what they look like inside because I put them together. So they're braced very well. They're heavy. The foundation of these DIY speakers is there. And it is a better foundation than what you will get on any production speaker in the same price category. And I would say probably even double the price category. There's a lot of speakers that I've not had personal experience with, but talked to other people that have had personal experience with. And there are still sometimes limitations to even a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 speaker when it comes to cabinet construction. That's taken off the table here. So number one, your foundation. You get a very well-built cabinet. May not be the prettiest cabinet if you're doing your own finishing, but maybe you're a finishing genius, okay? Personally, for me, I'm not the best at finishing, but I'm pretty proud of this one. This one looks pretty good. This one's getting ready to get dressed up, so we'll see what she looks like. It, they, him looks like. So, Enclosure, you're getting a better one, all right? Let's talk about the drivers. Drivers. Let's back up for a minute though, okay? Let's talk about traditionally distributed speakers. Companies like KEF, ELAC, Klipsch, JBL. Really any of the, speakers that you probably have heard of. Let's talk about how they come to market. Somewhere in a company, they're made. That company or manufacturing facility is generally overseas. With few exceptions, there are some speakers that are made here in the United States, but they don't stick to the traditional distribution method. They are direct-to-consumer model. So you have a speaker, it's finished, it's made in a factory, it comes over to the United States or wherever you're at, Europe, wherever it is. Then somebody brings that into the country, all right? Then, in most cases, that speaker then goes to a distribution company. Sometimes it comes direct from the company, but oftentimes it goes to the distribution company. That distribution company has to make money. So then it goes to a dealer. That dealer has to make money. So we start to see, and you don't have to have a PhD in deductive reasoning to understand that when you start to go through multiple hands and there's multiple margins stacked on top of that product, that it has to be built for a certain price, okay? So a $600 speaker is going to, a production speaker, traditionally distributed, is going to have way more margins on it than a DIY speaker or a direct-to-consumer company like Fluence or Emotiva or what have you. All right, so right there we have to talk about the quality of the components. Drivers being probably one of the most important products that go into a speaker. With these kits, the CSS audio and the GR research, those drivers are being manufactured for the most part, fundamentally, by CSS audio and by GR research. Now, is Danny making them in the garage, making the drivers himself? No. Is Kerry making them? No. But what they are doing, just like all the production speaker companies, is they are designing a driver to their specifications, and then they're giving it to the experts to build that driver. Then that driver's sent over, it's tested, quality assured, QA'd, what have you, and then they put it in their speaker. So you're getting a driver that is manufactured to the specifications of the designer, be it Danny or be it Kerry, okay? With that said, those drivers are better built, maybe have better frequency responses, better roll-off, smoother roll-off than other or some production drivers are. Let's just say the quality of the materials are better. Whether or not the performance is better, I'm going to say on these kits, they are. That's up for debate. Okay? You're getting a better built driver than you would be getting from a production speaker at the same price point. Not saying those production speakers are bad, not saying those drivers are bad, because they have what's called economies of scale, where they're bringing in thousands of drivers, so the cost of those drivers are going to be lower. But again, they have economies of scale. CSS Audio and GR Research have the ability to design it how they want to design it, to have their exact wants, desires, needs met. Okay? I've been in enough speakers and listened to enough speakers that I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that these are probably the best drivers that I have come in contact with. Okay? You're getting better enclosure. You're getting a driver that's designed to the manufacturer's standpoints with no compromises. They're getting what they want. And that is another thing. Sometimes there's compromises made at larger companies because the engineers, the people making the speakers, are under constraints. Production companies have a responsibility, especially if they're owned by private equity, especially if they're a part of a publicly traded company. They have a responsibility to make a certain amount of money. And I'll go out on a limb, generally that trumps the quality of the sound. With DIY speakers from these companies, you are getting they still need to make money, of course. But you have two people that are passionate about how that speaker performs. Okay? So there's value there. There's extreme value there. Let's talk about the crossover. If you're new to the speaker game, a crossover basically just distributes the right frequencies to the right driver. So a low-pass filter is going to distribute all the low-pass or low frequencies to the woofer. A high-pass filter is going to distribute all the higher frequencies to the tweeter or whatever other drivers you have in there. Components that can make up a crossover, capacitors, resistors, inductors, are like anything else. There's very low quality components and there's very high quality components. When one has a DIY speaker, the majority of the time, not always, but the majority of the time, they can implement better components into their crossover. All right? Some people would argue that a capacitor is a capacitor. It doesn't matter what kind of capacitor you use. As long as the values are the same, it shouldn't matter and it shouldn't sound different. I'm here to tell you that that is absolutely 100% false. Nobody would argue that changing out tubes in a tube amplifier is going to change the sound. The same is true for capacitors, resistors, and inductors. Are they better? I would say yes. In most cases, a higher quality component is going to give you better sound. Is it a huge difference? That's up for debate. But in my experience, listening to these two speakers, I have definitely heard a difference in the type of components that are utilized in a crossover. So the bottom line is they have the ability to put in better components into their speaker to cross over their drivers that they've specified to get a better sound. Better drivers, better components in the crossover, oftentimes easier crossover, more simple crossover, because again, now they're crossing over drivers that they've designed. And in my experience, the fewer things you have in the chain, generally the better the sound is from a detail retrieval standpoint, from a smearing standpoint of separation for the instruments and things like that. So you have a better enclosure, you have better drivers, you have better crossover components, and generally speaking, you have a less complex crossover design. Okay? So, you're thinking, hey, this sounds awesome, this is great. Let's talk about some potential negatives of a DIY speaker. As the name would imply, DIY kit stands for do it yourself. Okay? So you're making a speaker. Some would say you're not making it, and that's an argument in semantics. Okay, you're assembling a speaker. All right? But really, bottom line is everything's assembly except for whoever created whatever into our planet. Okay? So they're really the only person, the universe, nature is the only thing that's actually created anything. We're just figuring it out, refining it, assembling it, smelting it, whatever. Okay? Let's just get off my soapbox. Here's the point. It's not easy. Okay? At this point, I have built, between kits and building my own speakers, I've done it 10 times. That's 10 finished speakers. However, I've been through several iterations of enclosures. So I've probably built along the lines of 15 enclosures and assembled 15 enclosures, either design or kits or what have you. It's not that easy. It looks easy, just like the YouTube videos of retiling your bathroom look easy, but there's things that come along the way that you don't see in the video that happens. All right. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. I would say most people that have some patience and do their due diligence as far as watching YouTube videos and things like that, especially videos that really are what you're doing. So like CSS audio, if there's a video about how to make their enclosure, you should watch it a few times and then before you make their enclosure. GR Research already has a lot of videos out there about how to make their products. Okay. Point being, it's still not easy and it still can be frustrating. All right. And there's time involved, and that's your time. All right. Crossover assembly. If you've never soldered before, that can seem very intimidating. However, there's videos out there. You can go get a soldering iron, buy a bunch of wire, and just practice. Practice, practice, practice. And like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get. If you're just starting to bake cakes and make cakes, I would imagine your 50th cake or your 10th cake is probably going to turn out better than your first one. All right? So with anything else, there's practice. Now, if you've never done it before and you're buying a very good, high-quality DIY kit, that again can seem intimidating. But I would say don't let that be the deciding factor for why you wouldn't do it. So the reason these kits are affordable is because the final assembly, the finishing, is left up to you, the person that's doing it. And so there is a definite improvement in quality of a speaker, and you can't compare a $500 kit to a $500 production speaker. You just can't. And you also can't say, well, this speaker is as good as a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, because all $2,000, $1,000 speakers are all different. Some of them are great. Some of them still aren't great. And the construction, materials, drivers, what have you, crossover components still aren't awesome. Point being is I've listened to 50 speakers, and these two are the best speakers I've heard. And they're DIY kits. Okay? That's me saying that. Here's the deal. I love doing what I am doing. All right? And I don't think that if you're intimidated by putting these kits together, that it should keep you from having a kit. So I was thinking about it this morning, and I always talk about if you want to support the channel, okay? And I'll be honest with this. I want to do this full time, YouTube, okay? So if you want to support the channel, guess what? I'll put a kit together for you, all right? I'll finish it for you, and then I'll send it to you. So if you're interested, email me, cheapaudioman@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put DIY assembly, and we'll talk about the details. But I'll do it for $350. Now, you're not going to get the greatest, piano gloss type of a finish, but you're going to get something that you don't feel ashamed of putting out there, okay? I'll do all the assembly. I'll glue up the enclosure. I'll do the crossover. I'll wire it all up. You're getting a finished speaker, and then it'll be $350 plus shipping, okay? There's other ways you can support the channel. I'll have links to these. And these are the only two kits I'm putting my name on. These are the only two kits that I'll do assembly for. All right? And it's the GR Research XLS Encore or the CSS Crichton. Okay? Now, CSS also has another kit, lower price kit. I don't have that one yet, so I'm not going to assemble that one for you. I have experience with these two. So these are the two that I'll assemble for you, $350 plus shipping. Okay, so if you want to support the channel, have me put together a kit for you. Even with my $350 plus shipping, I think you're going to be happy with what you're going to get. You can also use the links. However, these links, I don't have affiliate relationships with either of these. So if you buy a kit through them, I'm not getting any money out of it. And that's fine. Okay? If you're interested, buy the kit from them. They're worth it. You can also sign up for Amazon Music HD for free. Click on the link, scroll down to the bottom, click Try HD. You get 3 months for free, and I get a couple of dollars. I also have Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night, we have patron-only Zooms. We also have a patron-only Facebook group where you can buy, sell, chit-chat, hang out with other people. All right? This, to me, is the highest value speaker that you can get, even if you have somebody else put it together. There's still good stuff out there. Kef makes great stuff. Klipsch makes great stuff. Elac makes great stuff. Wharfdale makes fantastic stuff. They all make good stuff, all right? They're not in the same ballpark as these, okay? So don't binge watch anything. Binge listen through your new DIY speaker kit and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.